What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. And in this video, we are going to be I'm just going to be giving you guys a little bit of an update of what's going around with some of these other NFC North teams. I think it's good to keep up to date with what the other, division rivals are doing in the division, right? Who are they targeting in the draft? Maybe if they made any moves, maybe if there's some rumors surrounding them. And yeah, I thought I'd talk about that a little bit. So let's get it started. All right, now before we get into the video, I'm sure there's a lot of you who are watching this and you're probably thinking, okay, can I get an update on, like what they did during their whole offseason, like free agents that they brought in? Well, I actually have a video on that where I broke down pretty much all their free agent signings. Recent ones won't be in there, but really the main ones are all going to be in there, like trades, signings. That video was already uploaded. If I can find it, I will put the link in the description or I'll put it in a tag or something. Otherwise, you guys can easily find it. I just talked about the other NFC North and what they did in free agency. You guys should easily be able to find that. Probably about 2 weeks ago, I put that up. So if you guys really want to know on pretty much most players they brought in, how I graded them, how other people graded them, you guys can definitely check out that video. But this one is more just like an update, and I thought we'd do this probably weekly up until the season starts. I think we started this at times, during the season, and I would talk about, okay, here's where the standings are, here's how the teams performed, here's what their outcomes were, and I actually had really good support on that. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, but I really just stopped doing it. I don't know why I stopped doing that, and I definitely should have stayed on it. But I think, this is one of those things that we can do, and I can continue to update you. So we're not going to be talking about all the free agents they brought in. We're just going to be talking about a few things, a few rumors, few stories going around about these certain teams. So yeah, let's just get this thing started. We're gonna start off with the Chicago Bears, and like I said, we already talked about all the players that they brought in and stuff like that. The trades, we already know. If you didn't know, they traded for Nick Foles. So yeah, Nick Foles is now their quarterback with Mitchell Trubisky. We do believe Mitchell Trubisky is going to be there during the season. It really just depends on who wins the role, because right now both of these guys are competing for the starting role. Nick Foles has said that he is going after the starting job, so they're both competing for the starting role. But what's interesting to me is when I look at this is we know Mitchell Trubisky is a younger quarterback, but this could be the end of his time with Chicago, especially if Nick Foles wins the role, because there is the thought and the rumor going around that the Bears could potentially be looking to draft a quarterback in this year's draft. Pick in the second round. They don't have a first-round pick. They have 2 second-round picks. I think it's 43 and 50. I think that's right. They have 2 second-round picks in this year's drafts, and we know most of the quarterbacks are going to go first round. Now, there's going to be a couple of guys available at that time. Jalen Hurts will probably be there, Jake Fromm, so they could go that way. Maybe Jordan Love, maybe Jacob Eason. They could go that route, or they could potentially look to trade up with those 2 second-round picks. They don't have a lot of picks because they gave away, back-to-back first rounds to go acquire Khalil Mack. We know Khalil Mack is just a problem right now because he's getting paid so much money. So the thought is they may trade up and try to find a future quarterback now, or they could stick where they are, try to find a future quarterback in this year's draft, depending on who wins the role, especially if it's Nick Foles. If now, say for example, Trubisky wins the starting job, I think, he's got to be the starter for long term, right? I mean, and then Nick Foles will probably be the backup, but I do think Nick Foles may win that starting job. And if that is the case, I could definitely see them going elsewhere and kind of moving on from Mitchell Trubisky. So his time could be up with the Chicago Bears, which we know he hasn't been a very good quarterback. However, when he's played us, he's definitely went off. Now, that's because their defense has been terrible, but still, he's had some really good games against us. But the thought is that they could be looking to draft a quarterback, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went the route of a Jalen Hurts. He kind of had what Trubisky had, the ability to move a little bit. They could go with the Jake Fromm, more of a pocket passer, possibly. I'm looking at quarterbacks for the second round, and then obviously they trade up. Pretty much all the quarterbacks are on the board other than really Burrow and Tua, because they probably don't have enough to move up into the top 10, top 5 to get one of those quarterbacks. So they did sign Mingo from the Browns, who was a linebacker. They signed him. They also brought back Irving. Mingo was a player that's bounced around a lot. He's with the Cleveland Browns. That's the best way I remember him. So they add some depth to that linebacker group. All of us know that they brought in Robert Quinn, who's been pretty productive. I think some people are a little skeptical, even Bears fans, about this move because it costs a lot of money. He's had to deal with some injuries last couple of years, so it's had him, it's been a little bit worrisome for some of these Bears fans because a lot of their money is going into Khalil Mack and now Robert Quinn, 2 edge rushers, which kind of stinks for some other teams, and that's why we need to make sure we have really good tackles. And I think this is another reason, I talk about it all the time. Lions are, I think, putting more emphasis in the tackle position than the guard position this season, and I could definitely see if Big V is that tackle, why they went with that route instead of possibly paying Graham Glasgow. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to draft a tackle, but with, teams like the Chicago Bears, who now we're going to have 2 edge rushers, and Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack, is definitely something to be concerned about. We know that's kind of the main part of Chicago right now is that defense, and they're still trying to keep that stacked for as long as they can, really until Khalil Mack his time's up with Chicago. But offensively, just curious. I'm just curious to see what they do at the quarterback position. Do you guys think they'll draft a quarterback? I could definitely see it happening. They also signed one of their safeties that became official recently. But yeah, there's just a lot of talk on what they could do. There's talk that possibly they could trade up for a cornerback because we know some of those guys are no longer there with Chicago, so they could trade up to go get a Christian Fulton. I don't see that happening. I don't think you'll trade trade up for a corner, not when you don't have a first round pick. I could see them trading up for a quarterback because that's like a, it's your franchise quarterback. A lot of teams, you give up a lot to make sure you get the guy. If there's someone that they love, don't think they'll trade up for a corner, though. That would really shock me. But that's kind of what I have so far in Chicago. Again, if you guys want to know who they signed and some of the moves they made, definitely go check out that other video. Now let's talk about the Vikings a little bit. Now the Vikings are very interesting because we know they traded away Stephon Diggs this offseason, and there's just tons of talk. What the talk was, hey, was Kirk Cousins going to get an extension, or is he about done here? He did get a 2-year extension. Then they traded away Stephon Diggs. So what are they going to do at wide receiver position? They need wide receiver and corners, right? Those are the two needs for the Minnesota Vikings. Well, a lot of talk going around about some of the biggest wide receivers in the NFL. Trade for Odell. There's rumors going around that they could potentially look to trade for Odell. That thing in Cleveland, I wouldn't trade for Odell. Odell just always seems to want to get out of places. I don't know what he's doing, but I would not trade for Odell. But hey, Minnesota Vikings, that could definitely be a team. And obviously if Odell is there, even though he's kind of, I don't know how great he is for your team, like when it comes to off the field, but on the field, he's still very talented. They were given a C+ for their offseason moves. I thought I would just point that out by multiple different sources, I think it was Bleacher Report that gave them the C+. They also we know they tagged Anthony Harris, their safety, but yeah, there's just a lot of talk about potential trades that they could make. Potentially trading for a guy like Trent Williams. As we know, their tackle is Riley Reif, who is with the Detroit Lions. That's probably how you know him. He is 31 years old. Trent Williams is 31 years old. He wants out of Washington, so they could be looking to add a tackle once again because of teams like the Bears who have Khalil Mack, who have Robert Quinn. When you look at the Packers, they got Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith. There's edge rushers, and then the Lions could potentially land Chase Young. You got to have edge rushers in this division. I know we already got Trey Flowers, so you got to have guys that can block. You need to have good tackles, and there's a chance that they could look and possibly trade for Trent Williams, maybe moving on them from Riley Reif. So yeah, there's just a lot of questions going around. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Because yes, they did give him an extension, but it was only 2 years. So could they be looking for a future quarterback this year for Kirk Cousins? That's kind of the rumors that have been going around. And finally, the Packers. Now, the Packers, there hasn't been much talk. There's been a couple of things here and there that are kind of interesting, not a lot. Really, it's all about the draft for the Packers. I'm really just seeing a lot of draft talk because the Packers sitting at 30, they're late in the draft. They're 13-3 last season. I hate the Packers. But anyways, they were pretty good last season, and now they have not the greatest pick. But there are some pretty big holes that they have to fill. Now, the thought is they're not going to go linebacker. I've seen a lot of Packers sites saying, hey, they may not go linebacker. They may not look at interior linebacker as that big of a need as other teams do. So they may pass on that. We know that they could potentially go get a wide receiver, potentially a T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, those kind of guys. They have brought in Devin Funchess, who was a Michigan wide receiver, played with Carolina, kind of a big, not very fast, big, slower wide receiver who's been solid. I think he's had some definitely up years. He's been consistently just an okay, average wide receiver, I would say. So they brought him in for some depth. So that could mean maybe they don't go wide receiver. The other thought is maybe they go tackle, right? In Austin Jackson, got to get a tackle. Once again, we're back to the tackle talk. Or maybe they go with the quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age. And I think, as much as Packers fans may hate to say it, it's true, right? He's getting up there in age, and it, that's always unfortunate. But they could be looking for someone. Not for us. It's unfortunate for them. They could be looking for someone that maybe could fill out that role. I don't know if that'll be a first round. I guess if they love someone, maybe if a Jordan Love falls to 30, I could see that happening. I don't know if that's where they'd want to go that pick. I'm thinking mid to late round pick. They'll go quarterback though this year. So yeah, I mean the thought is maybe they go with a tackle. Maybe they go with a wide receiver to pair along with the Devin Funchess, the Devontae Adams. They definitely need some more weapons there. So that's kind of your little update there. The Packers didn't have a lot. We know about the Lions. I talk about them every day. If you need to know anything about the Lions, if there's something that you want to get caught up on, either just look through my videos or just comment, and hopefully I can get back to you on those. Anyways, I appreciate all of you guys for stopping in. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.